The Nintendo DS came to the public in 2004 as Nintendo's next handheld system. The DS sold 150 million units, so there was no reason why Nintendo wouldn't make another one. But they already made several redesigns of the DS Lite, the DSi, and the DSi XL, but Nintendo took the risk and made the Nintendo 3DS, and it was released in 2011. The Nintendo 3DS was not well received because of its strange price, $250 at launch, while the DS was $150. But the 3DS was lowered to $170 in only 6 months. The 3DS has its 3D slider, but many of the third-party games, or sometimes even the first-party Nintendo games, don't even support the feature. So it kind of feels like a DS but with new games. So why buy the console? But there are still some differences. The 3DS has Street Pass. Street Pass lets you connect 2 3DS consoles and lets you share Miis, or become friends with strangers and see their favorite games. I brought my 3DS everywhere with me because of Street Pass. I have so many memories seeing the blinking blue light when I was out of the house for once and seeing people's Miis and seeing their games that they own. They will stay friends with you forever, and you can go back anytime to see them and see if they still play the console. 3DS was discontinued in 2019, but Nintendo was thinking decades ahead because of Street Pass. Street Pass will make you go back to your 3DS more than your DS. The 3DS is also backwards compatible with the entire DS library. If you had a DS, you probably bought the 3DS because of all your DS games were backwards compatible on the new console. There was no reason to give up the DS games because they were so good. Here are 4 out of probably the millions of DS games. And so much more. The DS games were crazy and outstanding. While we're on the topic of games, here are some 3DS games. The DS had a D-pad. The D-pad moves in 8 directions and is used on modern game controllers, and normally most of the time on handhelds. But games like Super Mario 64 DS didn't really work on the console because it's a 3D game that originated from a 3D console, the Nintendo 64. So the Nintendo 3DS did the revolutionary. They gave a handheld system a circle pad. The Nintendo 3DS has a circle pad, but also keeps the D-pad. This means Nintendo was able to make more 3D games, unlike the DS, with its D-pad that moves in 8 directions. On games like New Super Mario Bros., you might prefer the D-pad. That's why they kept it, but also the circle pad is just above if you prefer that one as well. The Nintendo 3DS buttons were almost the same button layout as the DS. The 3DS has the X, Y, B, and A buttons. The 3DS also has the L and R shoulder buttons, but the 3DS added the home button and the start button, but also the select button. The DS never had a home button, so when you wanted to go back to the home menu, you would have to turn the console off. Now we just gotta get this part out of the way. All the 3DS console redesigns. You have the original 3DS released in 2011. Then you have the Nintendo 3DS XL. That's actually the one that I have, released in 2012. The new Nintendo 3DS XL was released in 2015, with just the standard new Nintendo 3DS releasing a couple months after. Now I would talk about the 2DS and the new Nintendo 2DS XL, but I'm saving that for another video, so look out for it when it comes out. Well guys, this is the end of the video. The 3DS has got to be my favorite Nintendo console, but that's just my opinion. Comment down below what you think of the 3DS. Also comment what your favorite 3DS game is. I made a whole video talking about my top 5 best 3DS/DS games. You should go check it out. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.